So I guess one of the questions I want to ask is, how many of you guys have been here before? Raise your hands. How many of you are first-timers? About 50-50, I guess. Well, I appreciate you guys coming again, and for the newcomers, if you guys share this information about coming to this event, it'll be great. Pretty much what we do here at the TechMap and the co-founder meetup is to connect with others, and that's what the dots are for. We try to help them, and we created a website that does that for us. But other than that, you know, this is some of the information. This is myself, my wife, that we do the events. We got Jason, Lydia, Tony, and Carla. Those are our volunteers and our awesome community directors that help us host this event here, because otherwise we couldn't do it without them. It takes a lot of, you know, back work, and you know, as you guys saw coming in, it's a lot of, you know, steps to get them in there. But if you guys want to, you know, help out next time and have your picture here, definitely can do that. Just email us at team@TechMap, and you know, we'll be happy to have you help us out. Then the next thing is pretty much I'm going to go over the upcoming events. I got an event on February 29th, which is going to be a workshop, actually Regis, and it's going to be kind of like this event, but for real estate. So if you want to pitch your actual real estate deal, because I don't know if you guys know, Austin is pretty hot right now with real estate. We definitely want to hear your deals. I'm a real estate investor, so I definitely have money to fund some of those. And we have some hard money lenders too there. So definitely, if you want to attend, it will be $5, and we'll have food and drinks. It's going to be a Regis on February 29th. Then we have a workshop with Pitch Perfect. That's for those of you that want to practice pitching for South by Southwest, or actually at this event. It's $197, and we'll send out a code out to give a discount. But Jim Calmer, he was a speaker here, and he's the one teaching. We only have seats for 10 people, so if you guys want to come, it's more of a kind of one-on-one, and you can listen to other people. But it's really great if you actually want to practice your pitch and be up here in front of people and you know, sell your company or to investors or to anybody else. And then our next co-founder meetup, it says March 14th, but actually we just got noticed by Capital Factory that we're going to do it on the March 15th, which is a Tuesday, because they have a space. They have some other event happening during that time. Since it's South by Southwest, it's kind of crazy. But we'll send an update. We'll have Rudy Garza, which is also an investor at the event. And then at the bottom, you see some of the events that we have posted on the TechMap website. You can check them out. It's free. You can post your event. So definitely participate and be part of it. You can post your event as well for free. This is the upcoming keynote speakers that we have. Like I said, Rudy Garza, Joshua Bear, Brett Hurst, Tom Singer is a professional speaker, Jen Triplett, Jason Filkeman. And if you guys have any recommendation of anybody that you'd like to see up here that you think is a good speaker, just email us and let us know, and we'll try to see if we can get him up here, because we definitely want to learn from the community and from others what's going on and how we can, you know, work together and do other events. And lastly, I want to bring out our partners and sponsor. Of course, Capital Factory provides the space that we're here. This is a great location. If you guys were here earlier at 6 o'clock, they actually did a tour of the location. So that's something new they're starting. So most likely next month, they're going to do the same thing. So if you guys never been to Capital Factory, never seen the whole space, you want to get here early. So, you know, definitely they can show you. Then we have an event that we partnered with SP TechCon. It's, if you guys are Microsoft, SharePoint people, that's an event you might want to check out. We're actually going to have a booth there. It's going to be up north. So they're our partners for that event. Then we have Jojo Promo, so you know, the hat and the shirts and everything we do, that's my wife's business. She actually does promotional products, so if any of you looking for swags to do for South by Southwest, you should contact her. She gets great deals, of course. I'll say that because that's my wife. But Startup Career Fair, this is something that's happening in Houston. And actually, we're going to be there this Friday because there's a lot of students graduating, I guess, out of Rice, and they're looking for jobs. So we have a job post on the TechMap, and it's free. So if you guys, all of you that are pitching here, are looking to find a co-founder or to hire people, post your jobs, because basically I'm going to be advertising it over there for all of you that are looking to hire. We have Golden Arm Media, which are recording our event. I don't know if you want to say something.
If you guys were here last time, you may have seen the awesome lighthouse video we produced.
Yeah, it was a great video actually. So it was a startup that actually pitched here as well. Then we have Small Business Festival. Sean, you want to come and say something about that?
Sure. Hey everybody, Sean Duffy, Small Business Festival. That's a project I'm working on right now. And we are currently looking for speaker sponsors and attendees. More details to come on the attendee side. We have the website up and we've got a couple of really awesome venues confirmed for Small Business Festival. A little bit about what Small Business Festival is. We have Startup Week, we have Entrepreneurship Week, we have a week for just about everything in Austin, and if you're in tech, you know there's all kinds of great stuff for, you know, tech startups and things like that, but we really don't have a lot of stuff available for small businesses. So with Johan and a couple of other awesome folks, we're building Small Business Week May 1st through 7th. It's actually a nationally recognized week, but Austin just hasn't really done anything around it, so we're going to change that and have conferences. It's a conference with workshops, featured speakers, and actually like hands-on stuff where you can learn more about, you know, incorporating your business, funding your business, marketing your business, and so we're focused on building great programs for small businesses in Austin. So if you're interested and you want to be a speaker, a sponsor, or just an attendee, email me. It's sean@smallbusinessfestival.org, and that's SEAN at smallbusinessfestival.org. And Johan, if you wouldn't mind, send that out in the email wrap up.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So we are looking for a lot of speakers for that event and also sponsors. So if you guys are interested, it's going to be, we're going to have a gala. I think, I don't know if you mentioned that, and other events in different spaces. Kind of like Startup Crawler maybe, or South by Southwest, but just smaller, I guess, to the small business week.
More like Startup Week.
Startup Week? Okay, more like Startup Week. Well, next person I wanted to bring out was Richard Rodriguez. Actually, I didn't mean to skip you. Sorry about that, Monica. Come up here.
When is the Startup Career Fair, please?
It's Friday in Houston.
This Friday?
This Friday.
Thank you.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing? My name is Monica Millienberg. I'm a business attorney here in Austin with Richards, Rodriguez, and Skeeth. We're a full-service law firm. I work specifically with business owners, entrepreneurs, from startup to sale, and I'm very happy to be here this evening on behalf of RRS, supporting Austin's entrepreneurs. And those of you who have not, I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, I hope to speak with later and learn a little bit more about your business. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Well, of course, the Tech Map, you guys know what that is. Hopefully, if not, then sign up and you'll find out more. Pitch Deals is another startup that I started, which actually I'm taking some classes at Makersquare so I can learn how to code it and finish it, because I couldn't find the right developers to finish it on time. But definitely something that I'm working on, just so I can get my hands dirty on coding. So how many of you are developers here, if you don't mind me asking? Awesome, okay. Then we have the Fresh Idea Group. Jason, if you want to come up and say something.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason. As of next month, I'll also be up here standing in place of Johan, running all the meetings. I do social media digital marketing strategies, focusing on customers and revenue growth for your business. So I don't just post on Facebook for you. I actually optimize it.
So one person I didn't mention was the person that brought all the food, was the catering. I think there were some business cards. I think the food was awesome. So if you guys like it, please give me a thumbs up. We'll probably get him next month, and probably get different food or variety. But I appreciate you guys enjoying the food if you did. And of course, if you want to become a sponsor or a partner, of course, email us at team@thetechmap and we can go from there. And tonight's format, we'll have this keynote speaker for 20 minutes. And that'll be Jason, and then 5 minutes Q&A, or however he wants to break it down. And then we'll have the actual 5-company pitching, which if you guys grab the flyer that was in the front, kind of like this, it will say what the order is, and you can follow up with the companies in their website. Then they'll have a 4-minute Q&A. I'll have a actual card like this that says 1 minute where they're actually over, so they can actually finish. So I'll be sitting over there, so whoever's pitching, just watch, or I'll pretty much say in the microphone set that you have 1 minute left. And then please pick up your trash. This is like Rudy's. Your mom is not here to pick up after you, so please do so that will help us get it out of here quicker. Afterwards, we can go downstairs and hang out at the bar and drink some more, but we have to get out of here by 9 o'clock because they got the cleaning crew coming in here at Capital Factory. And if you want to pitch, of course, there's the link, the TechMap account has pitch, and we'll be able to get you registered to pitch. Here are the companies that are pitching: Right Connect, Trust Better, Crowdness, Calian, Cyber Warrior. And you can see that on the flyer if you guys grab one. And this is exactly what they're looking for, and their website and their actual presenter's name. And now I'll go ahead and bring in the keynote speaker, Jason. I guess he's been doing stuff with Techstars for a while, and now he's a partner, but I'm sure he's gonna cover a lot of that, so I don't wanna steal his thunder. But if you guys know a great keynote speaker, like I said before, email me or let me know, and we'll try to get somebody up here as well. So Jason, can you guys help me bring up over here with applause?
Hello, everyone. Don't kick that over. I'm gonna set a timer so I can watch the time. Just to help me understand the demographics of the room, what were all the colors? So green is investor, yellow is what?
Media.
Media, okay, and blue
Was entrepreneur.
entrepreneur, and what is the other? Was there another color?
Red was developer.
Red is developer. Okay,
Yeah.
and now there's 4.
There's 4, and
Right.
I'm gonna cover that at the end. So I usually cover in the beginning, but I'll cover at the
Is
end.
it okay if I pull people? No, I'm just curious. It'll
No,
help
that's
me.
fine. I'm
Because
just.
then I'll know who was in the room.
No, you can do it if you want to take it that
Yeah.
way.
Who has a red sticker? Okay. And who has a yellow media sticker? Okay. And then blue sticker, entrepreneur. So most people in the room are founders of companies. Awesome. And then green is investor. Hands up, everybody look at the investors. That was a trick. All right, so I'm supposed to take 20 minutes to talk and then 5 minutes of Q&A. I'm probably gonna talk for like 10 minutes and then try to do 15 minutes of Q&A. The goal with me talking is just to give you enough background on me and on Techstars so that you can actually come up with questions. So once I get to that point, in other words, as soon as you have a question, start interrupting me, and then I'll stop talking and start engaging in conversation. So that is my plan. So start off a little bit about me. My contact information, and I guess you can send that out afterwards. I answer emails. If you want to get a hold of me, just send me an email. I'm a very accessible person. I can't promise that I can help you, but I can promise I will read your email and respond to it. 3 things that I am: engineer, bootstrapper, and investor. So I started my career as an engineer. Electrical engineering and computer science is my background. I founded a hosting company back in 2006 in St. Louis, where I grew up, called SliceHost, and it was an entirely bootstrapped endeavor, an early cloud computing company with a great friend of mine, the 2 of us. And we grew that company to a pretty decent size, and then we were acquired by Rackspace in San Antonio. That's how I got to Texas. I stayed on at Rackspace for a couple of years as a VP of engineering there for the cloud group, and launched their cloud portfolio over those years. Left Rackspace and started doing angel investing. And as an investor, with my money, personal checks, I've invested in about 40 companies directly. And via funds, so managing other people's money, I've invested in probably another 100 or so companies. And then I've also invested in about 18 other venture funds. So I've seen a lot of startups. I mean, the total number of startups all of those vehicles together is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies. I've seen a lot of messed up stuff. I've seen a lot of miracles. And I've only been doing venture for 4 years now. So that's a lot of compressed activity in a very short period of time. That's me in a very fast nutshell. A little bit about Techstars. Who's heard of Techstars before? Most people. Okay. Who's not heard of Techstars? A couple people. Awesome. So Techstars, we'll be 10 years old this year. So we've been around for about a decade, and there are really, at this point, 3 parts of the business. When we initially started Techstars, we were an accelerator program based in Boulder, Colorado, to take 10 companies at a time through a summer boot camp to help teach them about entrepreneurial stuff, right? Like, that was the goal. And we've expanded the vision substantially. And now there's these three legs of our business that I'll kind of dive into one at a time. Startup programs, accelerators, and venture fund. What Johan was alluding to, my title now is partner at Techstars, and I focus full-time on the fund, which is the third of these three, and that's been for the last year or so. The prior years at Techstars, I was working on the accelerator branch of our business. So our startup programs are our community programs. So last year we merged with Up Global, which was a nonprofit that runs these four entities: Startup Weekend, Startup Next, Startup Digest, and Startup Week. And so these are all, this is Techstars now. So Techstars orchestrates every one of these entities, which is a pretty substantial reach for us on the community building, kind of grassroots, help people learn about what startups are, how to engage. And each of these in its own way is reaching a very, very large audience. As an example, Startup Weekend, I think in 2015, we ran a Startup Weekend event in over 150 countries, something like that. So it's a very large number. In fact, we're in more locations, we are in more countries than either McDonald's or Starbucks at this point, running startup programs, which is great. Like hard to reach places like Iran, places like Syria, where we run startup events, which is fantastic. And we're very excited to see that activity. Startup Digest is a weekly email that goes out to spread events and activities that are happening in startup communities. There's one very active one in Austin. Every week, the Startup Digest across our whole ecosystem reaches, I think, 20 million subscribers. So 20 million people learning about events and places to engage and opportunities. So we're a very global organization. Startup Week happens in a large host of cities. And many of you are probably familiar with the Startup Week that happens here in Austin, which is a week-long celebration of what it means to be an entrepreneur. And we view these all as opportunities for people to learn about what this thing is. And one of our core philosophies at Techstars is that ecosystem building is something that happens via example, and people start companies when they see other people doing it, and when the process is demystified. And so this whole leg of our business is very much in that vein. The accelerator program. So who's heard of a startup accelerator? Probably everybody, right? Or many people. So our version of a startup accelerator is it is a 3-month boot camp experience for 10 companies at a time, where we hand select out of a very large applicant pool this special set of 10 companies and put them through a really intense experience where we try and do everything we can do to change the trajectory of the business. At this point in time, we're operating in that set of cities. I don't even know how many that is. We run 21 of them a year, and we run 2 different types of programs. These dots are not accurate anymore. The cities are Atlanta, Austin, Berlin, Boston, Boulder, Cape Town, South Africa, Chicago, Detroit, Kansas City, London, LA, Minneapolis, New York, San Antonio, Seattle, and Tel Aviv. We run 2 different styles of programs, what we call city-based programs and vertical programs. City-based program is what we run here in Austin, and basically it means that we just take 10 to 12 interesting tech companies. There's not a particular type of industry that we're focusing. It is a broad horizontal program where we're just looking for high-quality tech companies. We also run vertical programs that are focused on specific industries. An example there would be our Virgin Media Accelerator program that happens in London, where we're looking for media companies. And so for our vertical programs, typically we're partnering with a a sponsor who's helping fund that program and is bringing their relationships to help the companies that go through the program. A couple of the other interesting ones we do, we run a series of fintech accelerators with Barclays, the bank. We run a mobility transportation program with Ford in Detroit. So they're partners that you would expect for the verticals that we're in. And it's the experience of that program is intense. And I know that I'll get some questions about it. I was fielding some questions before when I was sitting down about the structure of the accelerator. So if you want to hear about that, happy to dive deeper. And then there's the venture leg of our business, which is where my focus is now. And it is really the way to think about Techstars Ventures is it's a traditional venture fund that uses the Techstars name and operates inside of Techstars. So it's distinct from the accelerator program, and it's distinct from the community programs, but all of it together is the Techstars ecosystem. So currently we're managing about $265 million in aggregate. The current fund that we're investing out of is a $155 million fund. We do Series A investments and seed investments, typically focused on investing in Techstars companies that have gone through our accelerator programs and in companies founded by Techstars mentors that help around our programs. These are some example companies that we've invested in. Probably the one that most people in the room will be familiar with is Uber. We were a seed investor in Uber in 2010. And that's Techstars Ventures. So some suggested, hopefully that's just enough about Techstars and me that we can pick a topic to dive into and get a bunch of questions. So these are a couple of candidate topics from me. If you want to hear more about Techstars, I can go way deeper. I can explain how our model works, how we think about the world, how we pick companies, what the equity exchange looks like, compare us to other programs, Y Combinator, 500 startups, Capital Factory, etc. Or we can talk about venture capital, about raising money, about the details of that. Seen a lot of venture investments, as I've mentioned. Talk about bootstrapping. My company itself was bootstrapped. I have a lot of opinions about that, and I can tell you parts of the story about how we made that work for us. Talk about customer development and what it means to actually find product market fit for what you're doing. Or we can talk about your company. You can raise your hand and trick me into listening to you talk about your company, and everyone in the room as well. So these are some candidate topics. I think we can also just go whatever direction you want to go. Who's got a question? Yes.
Do you have? I want to learn more about your experience with customer development.
My experience with customer development. It's an open-ended question. Let me give you an answer. So, one of the things I think that is really interesting about customer development in my experience is to learn from customers' behavior, not from what they tell you. And I think that's one of the fatal flaws of the lean startup methodology is it's interview-based. And I think as soon as it's interview-based, people F that up. Because they inject biases and they listen with happy ears, and they also and you're asking someone what they would do in a hypothetical situation, or you're asking them to react to a wireframe mock-up. That's very different than actually watching how they would respond. In other words, I could ask you how you would react if a wild bear entered the room right now, right? And we could talk through it, right? But the moment that happens, your actual response I trust much more than what you said was going to happen, right? And I think the same thing is true for customer development. So I think the trick of customer development is to figure out how to create realistic enough environments to actually watch people's behavior, not poll people with surveys and ask people's opinion about what they think they would do, because it's very misleading. I don't know, is that it? That's an answer. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Back in November, there was that Ask a VC panel. Remember that?
Was I on it?
Yes.
Yeah, then I do.
It was at. It was great. It was at IBM, and you made a statement about the way you felt the fundraising culture was in Austin.
Sure.
With regards to how the money after 2008 never came back, and I thought that it was really.
It wasn't after 2008. It was after 2000.
Okay.
But
right.
yeah.
Well, I was wondering. I think it was just a really great kind of point that you made. I was wondering if you could kind of reiterate your thoughts on that and if they've changed at all.
How about you help me out a little bit and tell me what the point I made was?
Well, it was very, there's a lot of fireworks involved. So you basically said that it was the culture of the investors here in Austin that had driven that money away from not coming back.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a delicate topic to talk about, and I think the reason why I hedge in public. There are things I say in private that are probably different.
Yeah.
But there are different philosophies that investors, professional investors, take with regards to how they maximize their opportunities, right? And the history of this city and not just the city, but the history of a generation of investors was to maximize to the detriment of others, right? And there are long-term side effects to that in some cases. And I think that Austin is still digging out from some of the side effects of that here. And without getting super specific, I mean, I'm sure people probably could fill in blanks, right? But the environment that I was alluding to is one where an investor sets up a dynamic where it makes it very hard for other investors to exist in the ecosystem, right? And that may maximize over the short term the returns for that particular investor, but clearly it's not beneficial to the health of the overall community, which means over the longest of long terms, it actually is net negative for that investor as well. So it's like a penny rich, pound foolish situation where something that seems like it makes sense in the short term turns out to not be the best move. Our philosophy on this is very much a little bit more hippie, really. I mean, our headquarters are in Boulder, Colorado. We come from a little bit more granola roots on this sort of thing, and we think of ourselves as what I call generational investors, meaning that it doesn't matter to us. We're not optimizing for any specific outcome on any specific action, right? Like we make an investment in a company, it'd be amazing to see that company just knock it out of the park, return billions and billions of dollars. That'd be awesome. It's more important to us that founder has an experience where they want to continue to work with us on their next company, right? And so, which means over subsequent generations, we think our approach is building this fabric of long-term value that's bidirectional, and that we'll eventually be the beneficiary of. And we have a lot of different ways that we talk about that within our ecosystem when we train our companies to think that way with this mantra that we call give first. So part of the Techstars thing is this concept of give first, which is to freely give to others without any expectation up front of what you will get in exchange for that. And one indictment of Austin ecosystem in its current state, and I love Austin. I don't want anyone in this room to feel like I'm negative on Austin. I'm in Austin. I chose to live here. I could have moved. We saw how many cities Techstars is operating in. I got to pick which one I wanted to go to, right? I picked Austin, so I want to be here, right? So I love this place. I love Texas. But I think one of the negatives of a lot of the dynamics in Austin is that they're too transactional. Right? There's too much. What do I get for helping you for this? Like, how do we craft a transaction where there's an immediately satisfied value prop, which in the short term is optimizing, but over the long term is not. Yeah.
Where is it not transactional or less transactional?
What cities? Well, Boulder is our headquarters.
How does it work there?
How it works there is, Bradfeld is our spiritual leader, I guess you'd say, of the cult of Techstars in some respects. He's the first person that believed in David Cohen, who pitched him in a random day. So Brad does these random days once a month, where he funnels all of the inbound that he can't get to any other time, and he meets with people for like 10 minutes at a time, right? Like just rapid fire. And this guy named David Cohen sat down with Brad and said, I got this idea for this thing, I'm calling it a startup accelerator. Right? And he went through it for 10 minutes. Brad said, it sounds interesting. Like, I can't tell if you're a crackpot or not. If you're not, I'm in. I got a little more homework to do, but like if you're not, I'm in. And that was it. And then they came up with this idea, which is worst case scenario, we'll meet 10 interesting companies and make a bunch of friends in Boulder. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? I had no expectation about what, there was no expectation or understanding of where the return would be. And it still is yet to come. Every time we've had any largest that's kind of come into Techstars, we've just rolled it forward into expanding the organization and trying to lever up to figure out how to get to the scale larger. So some different ecosystems have different challenges, and we're in a lot of ecosystems, and they all have their own currency, right? I mean, the currency in New York is different than the currency in Boston, right? It's different than the currency in San Francisco. These places feel different, and people act differently there. Right, but the places where you can train an environment to help a startup without understanding how they're going to benefit from that immediately, that's a more fertile place to grow companies.
You had said that Techstars offers a different equity exchange.
Yep.
Can you describe that?
Sure. So for the accelerator program, the model is actually relatively typical with a couple of caveats. So if you apply to the accelerator and you get accepted, and choose to engage, you give up 6% common stock in the company in order to go through the program. And we write you a very small check. That's not a very economic exchange on pure dollars. We want the companies to think about that being 6% for the value that we're delivering to the company over the lifetime of the company. An important feature about that 6% is it has this extra little wrinkle that we call the equity back guarantee, which is a covenant that we engage in with the company, whereas after the program is done, the founders have the ability to claw back between 0 and 6% of that equity. So we're basically de-risking the fact that we think we're going to deliver that value, and we want the companies to we want founders to feel like they're not risking it. We're not going to yank it from you and keep it. If for whatever reason we didn't hold up our end of the bargain, let's have a conversation about it and figure out how to make it right. Right. So that's how we feel about the 3-month program. But then also, as I was mentioning when we were talking earlier, the 3-month program itself, we think is the first nugget of value that we deliver. We think it's worth the 6%, but most of the value that comes to our companies is being a part of this network over our lifetime. Right? I mean, we have at this point 750 startups, and by startups, I mean some of our startups are billion-dollar companies, right? But 750 companies in the portfolio, and thousands of mentors and investors, many dozens of Fortune 1000 companies that are all are in our family, and all of that we try to continue to figure out how to deliver value to that company that went through the Seattle 2010 program 5 years ago, right? Like we're still engaging with those companies on a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever basis to try to figure out how to deliver value, because that's the commitment that we made, right? So I don't know how much that answers the question. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the kind of the mechanics of the Techstars Accelerator program, and what advice would you give someone, an entrepreneur, to get the most out of it?
Mechanics of the Techstars program. So it's a 3-month boot camp experience, right? So it's basically 13, 14 weeks long, and we coach founders on the way in to basically rearrange their life so that no one needs to see them for 3 months. It's I mean, have you ever had a day where you just nailed it, like amazingly productive day, like every turn you were like absolute efficiency, like just got shit done, right? The goal is to string together 95 of those in a row. That's what we're trying to figure out how to do, and it's very painful. I think where we're succeeding there is in cases where we've changed how founders think about getting advice from others, and learning how to walk the delicate balancing act of having the stamina and stubbornness to push, but the flexibility and adaptiveness to listen and react and change. That's really you almost can't teach that, right? But that's the experience we're trying to create. One of the things one of the concepts we have at the accelerator is called mentor whiplash, which is the name that we've given to the feeling that founders have when they're getting very contradictory advice from people. Right? So imagine that if you got an hour's worth of time with a CEO, with a founder that IPO'd a company, and they're just going to look at your business and just dig in deep, and they give you a big list of do this, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, avoid this, hang out with this person, don't hang out with this person. And then the next day you spend time with a different IPO history founder, and they give you exactly the opposite advice. Don't go left, go left, go left. This one's go right, go right, go right. Don't do this no matter what. Do this no matter what. That happens, right? And we actually try to construct that inside of the program. You actually almost don't even have to try very hard. You just have to connect people with enough high quality CEOs and founders, because everybody has a very unique opinion, right? And what do you do when you get that? Well, most people freak out, which is why we call it mentor whiplash. But you also will start to feel and activate that muscle of independent thought, and learn the difference between taking someone's advice and synthesizing that advice into your strategy, right? So that's if we can get it. I mean, if we have one success that we could identify for what happens with the company going through the program, is that they learn how to think about iterating on the business, soliciting advice from people and understanding how to incorporate that advice into what they're doing without just following it as if it were instructions, and without just resisting it as if it was not, if it was wrong, right? Yeah.
So what kind of like metrics do you look for when you're picking out these 10 companies for your?
We don't look at any metrics. I mean, we'll look at whatever metrics you have, but we don't have specific preordained metrics that matter to us.
So as long as you're impressed with like an idea, then.
Yeah, I mean, so I spent a little time talking about this hippie concept of like long-term, super long-term investor. We look at investing in companies at the accelerator level just like any other investor, but add the extra wrinkle of one extra question: is this a founding team that we want to spend the next 3 decades with? Because we want them to be in our family and come back to us with the next company and the next company. And that it actually ends up being an overweighting factor relative to everything else. And so we end up selecting on the qualities and attributes of the founding team and whether or not they feel like they're Techstars people, right? Almost above all else. But we usually catch people when they're Techstars people working on an interesting idea that we think we can help on, right? Like, so it's got to kind of a little bit be both, but you can't, we are very unlikely to engage with a company where, because this would be short-sighted, where the existing company seems like it'd be very successful, but they're not people that we want to be in our family, right? That's an easy pass for us. So I think I got the warning, maybe one more short question. Yeah.
Can you talk about your bootstrapping and?
Oh man, just whatever I can package into 30
I'll ask
seconds.
you a question. Did you bootstrap because you had to, or because
Yes.
you couldn't get money?
Which is
And
probably.
if you could have gotten money, would you have definitely taken the money now with the hindsight? And if you could take the money,
Yeah.
and there's money, would it be VC versus angel in your seed round? Does it matter to you?
We bootstrapped our business because we didn't know anyone who had money at all. I mean, I grew up pretty poor, like not like live in the streets or anything, but pretty modest, right? We didn't have a first order network where we could even figure out how to reach money through the people we knew, right? Like that's a headwind, right? That a lot of people have. The biggest, I'll change the question. What was the biggest negative of us being bootstrapped? Right. So the biggest negative of us being bootstrapped is that it's harder to optimize your exit. In other words, when someone came along, i.e. Rackspace, and offered us more money than I've ever heard of for our company, where it's just me and my buddy who own it, like, I mean, what do you need in order to have a solid negotiation? It's a thing called BATNA. Who knows what BATNA stands for? Nobody?
Best alternative.
Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. In other words, plan B. Like, if you don't have a plan B, you cannot negotiate, right? Like, so big bucket of money or keep like busting your ass every day and like being poor. Like how well are we gonna optimize that deal? We're not. We can't. Like, it's actually an economically rational decision to take the first offer and just like cash it in, right? But with an investor, what do you get? Well, first of all, you get the fact that they say, look, if times get rough, we always have more money that we can put in the company. We can keep this going, like, and we have the history of having seen this and experienced many times. We could, come. Why don't you come talk to this other founder that had to decide if they wanted to sell early, and they can tell you how it went, right? And then talk to this one where it went well, and talk to this one where it went poorly, and make a well-educated decision. We had no one to ask. We had no support. We had no mentors. And that's the thing that I would have changed if I could have changed anything, and our biggest negative. One of the features of investing that is typically looked at as negative is this thing called liquidation preference. Anybody know what liquidation preference is? So it's a feature in preferred stock, which basically says that the investor gets their money back before you get anything, right, as a founder. And there's a lot of reasons why it's actually fair. It would take me a long time to explain it. But the little shorthand version I'll tell you right now is that it will actually give you leverage in negotiation, right? Like when you have an investor that can veto your deal, when you have an investor that's on your cap table that can prevent an acquirer from acquiring you, the acquirer now has to satisfy that investor, not just you. You are easy to manipulate when you don't have a backup plan. The investor's got lots of backup plans, which means that they actually could be your best buddy in a negotiation. right? Because they can, like, having an investor in your company, a professional investor, easily multiplies the value of an exit in exactly the same scenario, because the acquirer knows they have to clear the return hurdle of the investor in order to have the acquisition happen, and they don't even fight for anything lower than that. If it's just you, they'll beat you up to a pulp until they can take the company. That's what happens, right? So, I would love to have had a professional investor in our company. It would have been great. I'll sneak it in, yeah.
Do you feel like you got
A fair deal?
Yeah.
I did. In the sense, what's the definition of a fair deal? They paid
Still
more.
happy with it,
They
in my
paid
perspective.
more. Yeah, that's a good definition. For me, they paid more than the company was worth to me at that point in time, and less than the company was worth to them at that point in time.
It's a good deal.
So it was in the middle. That middle happened to be pretty wide in this particular case, right? But objectively, it was in that range, right? They paid more than it was worth to me, so I made an economic decision. Yeah.
What's a fair split to investors, employees, like before a C round or before?
A C round.
Yeah, like if you're trying to build a bigger company, what's a fair way to split up equity?
I think more complicated of a question than I probably could answer quickly. I mean, if I give you a shorthand version, it would be in general, you should be generous to the point where everyone in the company feels like they have alignment. Like, that's the goal. The goal for equity is alignment.
Yeah.
Right? So, all right. Good?
Yeah. So one thing I want to cover, guys, and I should have done this. If you guys need to run to the bathroom, just go to the middle, and then ladies are to the right, and gentlemen to the left. Other than that, put your cell phone on vibrate if you don't mind, so that way there's no interruption. And we'll go ahead and start bringing up the actual companies they're pitching tonight that I mentioned earlier. Let me just get this up. First person, if you want to come, is Santesh. You guys ready for the pitches, though? Come on. All right, good. And here's the mic. Here's the microphone up. And switch. Yeah, just press that to go forward. All right, cool.
Hi guys, thanks for coming. My name is Santosh Krishnan and I'm the founder of Ride Connect. Ride Connect is ride sharing with your social network. What we found is there's really no easy way for students to ride share, especially long distance rides. They can drive their own cars to campus, or they can take a car service like Uber or Lyft, or they can send messages to their friends and try to figure out how to get to places together. So they really can't go beyond that, not to the second tier of friends or to plan rides ahead of time without going to Facebook. We found that when it comes to students, there's 620 universities we looked at with 12 million students, and there's upwards of 1.3 million students that commute or drive to school or drive around school. We found that Ride Connect is applicable to a lot of these people because if they have a car and they share rides, they're usually using Facebook groups or Craigslist. And then if they are just socially active, then they're posting messages on Facebook, or otherwise they're using iMessage or some other kind of chat app to coordinate. There really isn't an application out there where they can simply coordinate rides to various places together. So what we did was we built Ride Connect. What it is an application where you can post your rides ahead of time, where people can offer you a ride or ask you for a ride. You can schedule it, and then according to the time, it'll just advance that. And then it builds your community based on your existing social network, and then it takes a second tier and a third tier beyond that. So it's not just your friends, it's your friends of friends as well. We have some distinct values that we bring to the table that other companies don't, such as your qualified social list. Basically, you can favorite people or block people or mute people so that that factors into who you can share rides with or who other people can share rides with. The newsfeed style ride board is essentially time sensitive so that you can post rides that you need or that you're willing to give into the future. And so far it's up to 24 hours, but there's really no technical limit in that. And then you can schedule events. So for example, this event tonight, you could go ahead and put that on the ride board, and then you can say you need a ride over here, and then you can ride share with other people to the event. It does private groups so that you can create a group just for a group of people who aren't socially connected, and they can still share rides together. We plan on monetizing Ride Connect by charging a subscription. Now keep in mind, we wouldn't charge you a subscription to share rides with your immediate friends or family, but when you go tiers beyond that, what starts happening is that it does become valuable. Because typically, when you're sharing rides with just your friends or your family, the chances are that they're going to the same place that you are and they're not going to give you a ride. So you want to go to a second tier and a third tier, wherein a subscription model comes into play. We also are looking into companies who can pay a monthly subscription to run their in-house ride-sharing solution for corporations, organizations, clubs, etc. We're starting with long-distance ride shares between Austin and Dallas, Houston, College Station, and other metros where people regularly commute. And currently they're using Craigslist or Facebook groups. So we've had interest expressed from UT Arlington and UCSD, where they've come to us and told us that they like the way we're approaching it. And a couple of companies in San Francisco also found us on LinkedIn, and they called us up to talk about how we might be able to address their corporate ride-sharing needs. My name is Santosh Krishna, like I said. I'm the founder and CEO, and I've been working in a variety of industries that deal with logistics, supply chain, and ERP. And so that gives me a lot of background in how the systems work and how we could optimize ride-sharing for the general individual. My CTO is Alan Pichardo, and he pretty much works on Android, and then we have a separate iOS team that develops our app. And so we're pretty much we have these apps on the App Store. Well, we have it on the Android Play Store, and we have it getting ready to be launched on the Apple platform. We have some advisors. We have Nancy, who's from the rideshare company. Her company pretty much does ride sharing for corporations. So we have a lot of good advice coming in from her. What we're looking for today is basically advice, introductions, pointers, and we are looking to raise money. So we're getting the process started to get introduced to the right people who understand what value we bring to the table, and then to get further along this process. You may reach me at my email address, and let me know questions. Yes?
I know last year UT discontinued its bus system between Austin and Dallas and Austin Houston because of competition from Megabus and Bond Lane. How are you going to be able to respond to those competitors with this?
Can you repeat the question?
Her question basically is that UT discontinued their bus system because of competition with Megabus and Bond Lane, and so how we would be able to compete with that. Ride Connect primarily is a brokering solution, so we don't actually offer the bus service or the car service. We give you the option of setting up your own ride shares with people that you want to ride share with. So right now what's happening is there are people that drive back and forth in addition to the bus services. That doesn't mean that the university bus service can't use our application. They could just as easily set up our application to say, hey, our bus leaves at a certain time and we have 25 seats. Who wants to get on the bus? So they could coordinate with our solution, which would be cheaper than setting up their own. Or you could just have your car with 3 seats and say that you're going, who else wants to join you? Yes?
Do you offer any sort of benefit to the owner of the vehicle?
Well, at this time, we are entirely staying in the brokering space. We're not getting into actually running the vehicle. So if you have a vehicle that you're gonna go ahead and share rides with, we're gonna help you share rides more effectively and more efficiently. So eventually we're gonna incorporate a billing system where you can charge people, but at this time, that's between you and whoever you're sharing rides with. We just wanna connect you with people more easily. Yes?
How much are you planning on charging?
We're planning on charging individuals $3.99 a month, but we have a approach that we're taking where people can have free rides that they can earn. So in other words, if you want to reach beyond your immediate tier of friends to share rides, that's when the subscription comes into play in the first place. But you can do things to earn free rides so that you don't have to get the subscription. But if you don't do that, then it's $3.99 a month, or if you do an annual, then you'll get a discount on that. If it's a company, then we would give you a private group, and that private group would also have a monthly charge. And anybody who's a member of the private group can share rides amongst one another, no problem.
What's the price on that?
We're thinking $99 a month, but we haven't firmed that. Yes?
If you don't already have a way to incentivize your riders on the front end already, do you have any kind of campaign set up to increase the number of riders that you're going to have when you launch the app?
Well, right now we're still working on a number of things. So we're literally getting the ball rolling at this event. So we just released the apps, and the fact that it took a lot of effort getting the apps working the way we wanted to. And now we're going ahead and announcing it, getting it in front of people, and that's one of the next things on the list. Yes, somebody had? Yeah.
So I wanted to add to your original answer to the first question, which is how would you compete against a bus service or bus program? One of the biggest challenges that bus riders have is it doesn't pick you up from point A and deliver you to point B. When you have more nuclear rides going a car, it actually gives you access to areas where a bus may not necessarily go to. So if you need to ride to Dallas, if somebody lives 45 minutes an hour away from the bus station, which might be closest to them, that's not a convenient option. But having a service like yours will make it very easy to actually facilitate pickup and drop-offs along the way that might be more convenient to people otherwise.
Well, so part of what we offer technically is to route the driver from wherever they are to the pickup and the drop-off, and then we plan on incorporating waypoints along the way so that you can add people. But at this time, it's just one rider and one driver, and that's our launch approach.
1 minute.
Question.
Yes.
So tell me about your experience in talking to corporate folks that were interested, because they do have some corporate goals, and I'm sure they're willing to pay to accomplish those corporate goals. And by the way, I like the concept. It's an interesting concept.
So in our discussions with corporations, the primary thing was, if you're aware already, in California, they have the Apple bus and they have the Google bus, and they, to that gentleman's point, they pick up at a certain location, drop off. And one corporation approached us to ask us how we would tackle that problem, where individuals need to come from wherever to their office. And so our approach basically is that the corporation would end up incorporating our application into their corporate philosophy and announcing it, so that individuals would use the app and say they're ready at a certain time, and other individuals that are driving would get the announcement and say, okay, I'm gonna pick this person up, and then somebody else picks up that person and maps them to their pickup and then to the office. So that's kind of how we approached it. And then we also brought up the carpooling aspect of it, where one vehicle that can have more than one individual would end up allowing more than one request to be accepted. At this time, you can accept only one request, but then eventually we'll allow more than one request, so that if I'm driving to work, I can take 3 additional requests. It'll automatically do the milk run and map it out. So we employ a lot of logistic solutions that compete with what UPS or FedEx does in order to deliver packages, except our packages are people.
Right. As a comment, the corporation already has a network of employees, and they don't have the trust issue generally, right? So some of those issues might actually be solved if you went down that road as a first-tier customer. Also, it might be interesting to know how much they would pay per employee.
So on the trust issue, because of the private groups, we pretty much give the corporation a private group.
Right.
And
but they wouldn't have some of the trust issues that individual social network people would have in
yes.
model, right?
However,
You can
sorry.
continue
Thank you.
later on. Sorry.
Thanks.
To stop you in there. But I appreciate that.
Thank you.
He'll stick around and I'm not questions. So Catherine, Trust Better, please come up. Trust Better. Here you go. Let me just put the clicker right here.
This way? Okay. Actually, I'm kind of excited about where I'm at in our order, because I might actually have a little answer for your question when it comes to trust. Let me get into this. Hello, I'm Karen Bergman, and I'm here with my partner Prashant. Hello. And we are building trustbetter.com. If you guys have entered the conversation of trust, read the trade journals about the shared economies, read the real estate journals about the rental economies, you guys are probably aware, maybe you have rental properties yourself, you're well aware that trust has become a critical conversation to all of these industries. So we are building trust in a unified review system for the shared and rental economy, and that is extremely important in the conversation. But first, what's the problem? Easy. The property owners need a better and more objective way to evaluate property potential users. The credit scores don't provide history of usage, only payment. But there's a second problem that is a lot of times not addressed. Property users need a platform to showcase and be rewarded for having integrity and honesty in their user relationships. Because the current sites only seek to identify untrustworthy users. And so what is the solution? We think we're building it right now. TrustBetter.com provides a searchable database of property users who choose to build their trust profile through consumer actions because they are rewarded by retailers each time they get a review from a property owner. And this is what a potential profile would start to look like in TrustBetter.com. You see, you've got someone with a graded score. You've got a history of some of the properties that they've used. But here's the exciting part of this. Now, we're going to roll out our MVP with the real estate market. However, this can scale to any property. It does not have to be real estate specific. It could be a lawnmower. It could be a storage unit. It could be commercial. It could be residential and individual. And what you are doing is also not doing a subjective written review about someone. The user is asking a property owner to answer 5 simple questions. Did I pay on time? Did I leave it clean? These are objective questions based on consumer action, not subjective. So this is how we're different. We're going to actually bring retailers to the equation and offer rewards. For renters, it can be any number of their favorite places to shop. And I have a surprise at the end of this pitch. But for property owners, they're also going to receive a reward for giving. Everybody gets a reward for taking action, and they can be targeted to the needs of property owners and geolocated. So we've done some validation at Startup Weekend, which was awesome. I had about 9 people on my team challenging me for 3 days, which was fantastic. And in that time, we talked to property owners who definitely validated that the background checks were not cutting it. I've had experience with that myself. Renters, man on the street, were 90% positive on saying that yes, they would love a reward. They know that they did good, and they'd actually like a reward for having been a good renter. But one of the most incredible validations was Sam Merrill of Flip This House has given us a letter of endorsement, and he'd love to roll this out to the thousands of property owners that he currently has in his group. But one of the things that happened after Startup Weekend was this article came out in Time Magazine that talked about the shared economy, and that's how this expanded. You recognize some of these logos and these of companies, you know, the HomeAways, and that's what this can do. It can expand into the shared economy, which is having an issue with understanding and feeling trust. This is essentially the sharing universe. There's millions going on in it, and we would sit in the middle, being a unified place that could transfer information between all of them. So how does it become revenued? LinkedIn would have said at the very beginning, most reputation systems cannot be directly monetized. We can, because we bring retailers to the equation, and we have 3 revenue streams. First, the retailer has coupon rewards, which we would take a part of. Current systems are at 20s and 50s. I was just being very conservative, starting at the very beginning with 2%. Retailers, of course, would do advertising, which we can do at a higher level because they are proven consumers. They are taking consumer action. And as this list grows, property owners can now geographically target market to people that they would want to rent their property to. Just looking at an MVP alone, you're looking at 110 million renters just in the real estate area. If you had 1% market share, you'd still have 1 million users, and you could get into the almost 300,000. Oh no, I want to show me some surprise. Oh no, it ended. Oh, I went back too far. So here's my surprise for the end. This is what we're wanting to ask. What I would love to do is say, please register with our site, because what we have excitingly had in just the last week is one more validation to what we're doing, and Freebirds has come on board. So if you would please register, go to trustbetter.com tonight. Prashant has worked very hard to get our user profile up and running so that people could actually register tonight. And for all of you who would become our very first users, you get a free burrito coupon. So come to me by the end of the night and get a free burrito coupon and register with us. Thank you.
Questions?
I love questions, yes. Yes.
How is this being done now? And how are you interfacing with the people that are doing this now? And how are you extending and improving on how this is done now? And I'm a landlord and I have an extremely hard time.
Well, I'm gonna
with,
ask you then, I'm gonna
getting
switch it on you. Do you have a space, a service like what I'm offering? Do you know of any?
Negative.
That's right. What you have is tenant review, what you have is tenant check, what you have is credit scores. So that's how it's being done now. Within the shared economy, what you have is internal subjective reviews in HomeAway, internal subjective reviews in Lyft and Uber. But if you do an Uber, you can't share it with a Lyft, that you have to start all over there. If you do a HomeAway, you can't share it with an Airbnb, you have to start all over. This allows one place where you control, as a user, your presence online, and it's not subjective. Property owners, do you want to write a review about somebody?
Sure.
Well, I mean, like, you want to sit down and think of a paragraph and like, oh, he was a really nice guy. I know as a property owner, I don't want to do that.
Well, we're in the sharing economy. We have to. We're forced to.
We assume that. We assume
people
that.
who rent from me are reviewing me and I'm reviewing them.
Right. But I would like to take that assumption back and say, at this point, do I want to put myself at risk as a property user of your writing style? And I would say no. And so that's where I'm gonna step back and say, I would love to ask you for a review, but I wanna make it easy for you. I wanna make it 5 simple questions that you can do in 5 seconds. And I trust it because I know I did a good job. And when you answer it, you get something and I get something. More than just my deposit back. Anybody else?
How do you stop people from sort of gaming the system, right? So what stops me from signing up on both sides and giving myself great reviews?
Excellent question. Property owners have to be vetted. So they would have to register with either a tax ID number or a social security number. They're gonna have to pay taxes on the money that they receive from that. So that would be the initial vetting of a property owner.
Well, but I mean, so I'm starting a startup, right? So I have a
Sure.
tax ID. So what if I
Right.
have really terrible credit otherwise, and I've been kind of generally a bad person, but I think would give myself great reviews?
At the very beginning, you know, at the MVP, we would have to actually initiate contact with each property owner. Yeah.
Plus there are only so many tax IDs that you have, so
Right.
you won't have
Sure.
100, so you can't really build a game in the system.
Right.
Got one question more?
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
It feels like, one of the biggest barriers to entry is kind of like if you're starting a new dating website, you want to have a lot of people in that city. More users is better for everybody. So,
Correct.
Aside from the free burritos, what is your strategy to really grow that audience and get a lot of users quickly?
Excellent question. So the property, at first when I was originally conceiving this idea at Startup Weekend a long time ago, I thought, my customer was really the property user. And actually it's not. It is the property owner. The property owners are gonna really drive this because what's gonna happen is as soon as we do build this, and I pull it out to Dan Merrill and he starts doing that, and we work in a couple of the college dorm, all of a sudden I'm forgetting the name of college dorms. It's thank you, student housing, just was not coming to me. The student housing, American Campus is another place that we're gonna try to roll this out. They will initiate when somebody comes to them the next time saying, do you have a trust better profile? And then the applicant is like, no, I don't know about it. Great, well go back to your last property owner, sign up, go back to your last property owner and get one. Well, if that person doesn't take that action, you've probably skirted somebody that wasn't willing to didn't do a great relationship in the last one. And so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Here you go, use the clicker, or you can click this way. Okay.
Hello, my name is Eugene Villarreal, and my company is Crowdness. My co-founder is Alfredo Miranda. For a little bit of background, I've been in Austin, Texas. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and I've worked as a web developer for 10 years here in Austin, working for startups all the way to nonprofit organizations. So in college, I didn't study CS. I studied literature and philosophy, and this hobby became my career. And Alfredo Miranda, he's got a BA. He's got a BA and a master's in computer science. So what we want to do is we're trying to we actually created a platform, MVP. Where we share language for people to share language and practice language through user-generated video. This has been a passion project for me for quite a long time. I thought about it for about a few months while I was overseas, and I got a lot of insight on how people learn English overseas, and there's a lot of problems that we're trying to solve with that. And some of the problems that we're trying to solve are these barriers of access for language learning. One of the big ones is native speakers. Native speakers is hard to come by. It's expensive. It's not very convenient. And for the people who want to really need this access to native speakers, they're usually priced out because it's too expensive and it's inconvenient. We're also trying to solve the problem of the variety of language learning content. If you use any software to study a language, or if you're in school, you usually have one source of truth, and that's like the one video you get for each phrase or word that you're trying to study, or you get one book, and there's not a lot of variety. And we want to put that variety in the hands of users so they can create lessons through video. And also, like, software is usually very difficult to use. There's a lot of free programs like Duolingo. It's very interactive and it's engaging, but for some people it might be difficult to use, and some people are just trying to learn how to say a particular phrase or word because it's hard to pronounce if you're from a different country, let's say Vietnam or Croatia. And the other problem we're trying to solve is the limited multilingual support in software. Usually, if you buy software, you buy a package, and if you want another language, you have to buy another package. And we can offer that all for free with what we're doing. So we have a UGC platform for sharing words, phrases, and short passages through video. This might not sound unique, but the way we do it is that we don't do like a one-to-one, one word and one lesson. What we do is with each word, phrase, or passage, you can have as many examples, video examples of people saying that phrase in that one language. And this is useful because, let's say in France, they may say something, they may say a phrase, everyone has a different way of saying the phrases. And to really get a really good understanding of how people speak locally, you need a big sample of a big variety of people, of examples that you practice against, so you can get a feel of how people speak naturally in their locale. And with our MVP, we can do all languages, and you can use it anywhere, anytime for free. And we're also focusing on sign languages also, because we don't see a really good resource for learning sign languages in different languages, not just American Sign Language. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for investment. We're bootstrapped right now. Fredo and I are just working on the side, and I'm working full-time on it right now. And with the seed, we can build a mobile app. The SaaS product is a big data. I think that we're hoping to get somewhere down the road. Once you get more data, I think that would be really interesting in the long run. Because we'll have some images, with a big variety of different people speaking, and I think it'll be useful somewhere for some people, some company, maybe for AI or whatnot. My name is Eugene, Crowdness, and my contacts here, and we're Learn by Sharing is our subtitle. Any questions? Sure. Well, we are crowdsourcing words, phrases, or short passages through video. So they're going to be very short videos, and it's all user generated. So someone in France can create a video of a word or phrase, and they can match up with a translation in English or in any other language. So it's all going to be just short video clips. Instead of having like a live one-on-one communication. So they can use it anytime. Yeah. It's kind of like an archive. Yeah. Sure.
How do you create your content? So, people put out a lot of phrases, different ways of saying it. How do you make sure the word is actually said is what is desired versus something undesired?
Right, yeah. We don't have that working right now as a function of the application, but I mean, there are applications out there or plugins that you can use to match audio and video with actual text. I think there's Clarity.io in here in Austin that does stuff like that, but they do only English. The whole curating thing, I don't want to curate content. I want to get as much data as possible because students need to see a bad representation and a good representation, or a representation they feel is good for them to practice against. So I think it's kind of like rating, like product reviews. If you get bad reviews and good reviews, you can make a comparison, which you agree with. Sure.
So, I've been trying to learn Spanish. I've been using Duolingo, and I have like goals like all the way down. So that's a real problem that I'm having, which is that every single app out there, you can really beat the app and not learn a thing.
Sure.
How do I not beat your apps? Because the only way for me to learn is to not beat your app.
Right. Well, there's no gamification yet in the app. We do have some ideas of incentivizing certain particular countries to create content for us, so that we can incentivize them to create good content. And the good content, the 5-star content, they will get the incentive, and they'll bubble up to the top when you filter lessons.
But those are content creators, right?
Right.
So ultimately, I need to learn the language for it to really work. So for somebody like me, who's really good at beating the app,
Well, then you really don't want to learn the language. If you don't want to learn the language, then
Yeah.
I'll speak to that. I went to Colombia this last Christmas, and I spent 6 months on Duolingo every single day. I learned how to speak German in high school. I was like, oh, I'll pick up Spanish. It's similar. The problem with, I think, Duolingo, and this might be something you guys could fix, is it doesn't teach you the base grammar of the language. It doesn't teach you how to conjugate. It basically, I know how to say penguin in Spanish, but I don't know how to conjugate basic verbs, right? So I know that was one of the issues that I had with Duolingo's is it's a memorization app. It's not a learn the actual new language app.
Right. Yeah, I think we can solve this problem because what we're doing is words, phrases, and short passages. Those short passages could be scenarios where the actor or person who's creating the video, they can maybe say like these are several ways to say I'm going to fly a kite, right? And paired with that, there's description text and whatnot that the user can add in to say like, this is how you conjugate this word.
Quick question. How are you guys going to make money again?
We have a freemium model. With the subscription, we want people who subscribe to be able to download certain videos they want to practice when they don't have Wi-Fi or data connection. So if you're on a plane, if you're a business person going overseas, if you're on the plane, you can practice in the bus or in the plane. We also have a SaaS model. It's our big dreams way of making money, where if we create really good content, we can probably sell it to Travelocity. You go to Travelocity, you book a trip to Rome, there'll be a tab on the Rome page that says, hey, want to learn some fancy new phrases? We can do that too. We can have partnerships with big brands like that.
Thank you.
And the big data model, hopefully.
I actually traveled to Europe, and I bought one of those books to learn the language, and I didn't learn nothing, so I'll try your app. Guess Scott.
Thank you.
And just do it this way or
Right.
this button.
Cool. Hey everybody, my name's Scott. I just got a free burrito. Thank you, Trust Better. Appreciate it. And I'm here to tell you about Gallivant. With Gallivant, what we're trying to do is building a global community of people that can have fun together, and we're building it around what we think is the world's first activity-based social platform for fun. Our goal is to transform how people, all of us, can meet new friends and plan activities, enabling real people to find real activities and each other anywhere at any time. The idea that's become Gallivant, I first sketched it on a notepad, just about like this, not the same notepad, but in Dubai 5 years ago, I was on a long layover on the way to Afghanistan, and a frustration that has stuck with me through many, many trips and many moves over the years. Trips for both work and play, moves to Denver, to DC, hence the tie, and now to Austin. And the frustration is this: I've had no way throughout my life to find my community on the fly, to find my people or my type of people anywhere I'm at, whenever it happens that I'm there. Gallivant, we're seeking to do this. If you're a millennial and you're the kind of person that when you're traveling, you're a social traveler, or when you're at home, you're an active social person, there's no digital solution, there's no online community that allows us to replicate the steps that we take in our everyday life to plan activities with our friends or to expand our social circle. Anywhere I go in the world, I can have a date in moments. But there's no way that I can conveniently find like-minded people to go fishing with, go climbing with, go to a museum with, etc., etc. Hear that whistle also. I don't know.
Yeah, let's try it without the mic.
Without the mic. Sounds good to me. I can hold my notepad this way also. And so Gallivant's seeking to be this solution. And so to find our community on the fly, we're building Gallivant. Also my first time pitching, I'm a little nervous. So anyways, what can we do with Gallivant? One, we can discover what those around us are doing. With Gallivant, you can see what people are doing right now, what they're doing tomorrow, or what they might be doing the next day, or you can see what folks were doing in the past in the location you're at your given area of interest. At the same time, you're going to be able to either join an activity that someone else has created or plan your own. If you choose to plan your own activity, you either can invite friends if you're at home and you have your community with you. If you don't, you're going to be able to invite others that are active within the app and within the community, or you'll be able to let others join your app and then complete that activity with them. And finally, when it's all said and done, you're going to be able to share your experience. The page that you use to create and recruit for your activity automatically turns into a collaborative shareable microblog that will allow every participant to upload their own pictures, to tell stories from the activity, and then to share it with one single link, just like you might share an Instagram photo that you take when you're out on an adventure or an activity of any sort yourself. So Gallivant effectively, just like all of these other companies, exists at the nexus of friends and community, of travel and experiences. With Gallivant, we like to say that we're the love child of couchsurfing and Meetup. And what we mean is we're just taking one small piece from these and many other companies that exist within this general space. Meetup is wonderful for this. Meetup is not very good if I want to find someone to hang out with when I'm in LA next week. It's not very good if I find myself in Chiang Mai for a few days and are looking for folks who are my kind of people to go visit waterfalls, to go to a cooking class, etc. With Gallivant, what we're going to do is we're going to take Meetup, but we're going to make it more spontaneous, more informal, more immediate. Couchsurfing, another wonderful community, but it's always been limited by a couple things. One, while a lot of people love the idea of sleeping on a stranger's couch, it also creeps folks out. Way behind schedule. So, we're going to take the creepiness out of couchsurfing. It's just a community for having fun, which is what I've always tried to use couchsurfing for, though it's never been very good for that. Finally, moving on, the size of the market that we're getting into. It's really a tremendous opportunity. A lot of people have tried, no one's gotten it right. 15 million millennials move every single year. These are the folks who are on Tinder saying, I'm just looking for new friends. There's 22 million Meetup members right now. 10 million members of Couchsurfing since 2007, though there's only 1 million active members at this exact moment in time. 4 million people book on Hostelworld every single year. Those are social travelers that are traveling to meet people and hang out with as they're hopping from country to country, hostel to hostel, etc. Just tell you a little bit about our advisory board. Jillian Bergeron is currently basically doing what I'm describing, but at Nextdoor. They've had tremendous growth through grassroots strategy, the Obama model, which is my background. Jeff Coleman, very similar and at Farmiga. Nate Lubin was the digital director at the White House 2013 to 15. Gabe, really successful at Riot Media, which is a cool org to check out in California, or company really. Kathleen Reen, no one's ever heard of her, but she's a powerhouse within the global internet world. Stephanie Spears, aside from Solstice, was the youngest member of the National Security Council before she left to pursue a path similar to my own. John is just funny. You can mostly find him at music festivals, but he works also. My team, Kyle's here. Carolyn and Michael couldn't make it tonight, but we've been working together for some time. If anyone else is looking for an unpaid job and wants to jump on board with Gallivant, we're looking for you. Otherwise, looking for angel investors and advisors and mentors, ideally that are investors as well. Thank you all.
Questions?
In the aisle.
Yeah, this isn't so much of a question as just a piece of advice.
Thank you.
We've seen a lot of these different apps come through, Co-Founder Meetup as well as Startup Weekend and whatnot. And one of the big issues that these apps often face is that, whenever I first log on, I don't see anything, right? Or like,
Right.
no events around near me. One of the ways you can circumvent that problem, and this is just, I guess you might think about implementing this, is you can use an API like Facebook or Eventbrite, or Meetup API, and have someone log in with their profile through those sites and have all the meetings they're already going to automatically populate Gallivant. That way, if, for example, someone has an Eventbrite profile like I do, or has a lot of Facebook events like I do, I can immediately log into Gallivant. It takes all those events that I've already set up that I don't have to do extra work to do to set up in your app. You want a job that doesn't take money.
Yeah.
Smart advice.
Kyle, take notes. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I know we're going to be very careful in curating how we roll out on a city-by-city and regional basis, but that's awesome. Thanks.
I think it's a great idea. So if I understand that right, I'm going to be traveling somewhere, just going to go on your app, and hey, who's hanging out? What's going on? I can join your crowd. So now, how do I know that what seems really attractive, that group that's going partying tonight, is actually the kind of people I want to hang out with? What do you do to help me decide that?
Yeah, so I think two answers to that question. One, if you're looking for activities, you could just look at every activity that's listed in your area once we've grown exponentially and have several million members worldwide. Or you're going to be able to filter everything. And that's like my background's in politics, have used like voter tracking tools forever. I love being able to like carefully like to tag things and then curate my own experience, whether it's in a database or being able to curate my own experience within Gallivant eventually. So if wherever you're at in the world, you could just look at what everyone's doing around you and what you'd like to join. Or you can say, I'm really interested in arts and culture, and then either choose music or museums, etc. So you're going to be able to see like a very specific subset of what you're looking for, or look by keywords eventually as well. 1 minute again. Yeah.
Could you go into that grassroots strategy that you're implementing and talk about how you're going to reach scale with that strategy and just kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I think I mentioned the Obama model. That's my background. Like, worked both as campaigns and have been in DC for the most part. Otherwise, like running nonprofit organizations up until now. But like the Obama model in a nutshell says, grassroots organizing is like one-on-one based user acquisition and relationship building, then community building within that and partnership building. And so, reaching out beyond individuals, but finding community-wide partners that you can scale with quickly, and then integrating that fully with a digital effort or a digital campaign. So we're thinking of user acquisition as like person-to-person basis, but then also through like smart but pretty typical like digital advertising, and then backing all of that up with like more traditional old media marketing methods, et cetera. And so I think, in our perfect world, fundraising aside, we'll be able to launch in Austin as a domestic base, launching in Southeast Asia as an international base, but never opening it up everywhere at once, building out location by location, so that we're able to like really double down with like staff, volunteers, fellows, and similar, and curate and build out the experience in a very specific way, which hopefully will also avoid some of the pitfalls he mentioned of having people sign on to the app but just having nothing going on around them. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have the last speaker coming up, Agile with Cyber Network?
Cyber Warrior Network.
Cyber Network, yeah, Warrior Network, sorry. Just cut out the warrior.
Sorry.
There's a speaker up there, so you'll be able to talk and people should be able to hear you. Okay. And here you go, you switch with this.
Which one? Which way?
That way. You're set.
Cool. All right, thanks for sticking around. Can everybody hear me? Cool. Cybersecurity is a business about trust, knowledge, skills, and ability, ethics. And within that combination makes it pretty difficult to find the right talent. But before I go into that, I want to point out that I think the why as entrepreneurs, why we do what we do to solve the problems that we solve is pretty significant. And I have 3 whys why I launched the Cyber Warrior Network. First one is I know that there are bad guys out there who want to destroy our economy, and hurt our nation. The second one is I'm very passionate about startups. And the third, I'm very, very passionate about veteran employment issues and veteran entrepreneurship. So that's my big why for Cyber Warrior Network. Before I moved, I was in Maryland. I moved back here recently. And my role was the Veteran Outreach Program Manager for the state of Maryland. So essentially what I did was I helped vets launch businesses and careers within cybersecurity. So within the first week, I was inundated by emails and phone calls from veterans saying, hey, here's my resume. I'm having a difficult time finding a job. Please help me get hired. And on the flip side, employers were saying, where's all these great vets that we keep hearing about? We'd like to hire them. So, I started forwarding resumes and saying, you know what, some of these guys got to get hired. To my surprise, very little got hired or even got interviews. So I became this conduit between veterans who were skilled and cleared, and that's the trust that we talked about, and have the abilities, to the employers. So the Cyber Warrior Network is essentially helping companies find and connect with the best cleared cyber talent. So you can think of this as a match.com for the candidates seeking those positions and the employers looking for those candidates. Here's some interesting numbers. So over 1 billion records were compromised in 2015. And Cisco states that there's over 1 million vacant cybersecurity jobs globally. It's about 209,000 cybersecurity jobs vacant in the US. And the DoD states that, it's projected that over 1 million veterans are going to transition into the civilian workforce by 2020. So talking about those records that were breached, Cisco reports that about 125 billion in costs just to fix those problems. And you may think because, I'm a military member, but you may think that because the OPM got hacked, that was my biggest issue. To be quite honest, I was more pissed off when PlayStation went down because I couldn't play Call of Duty. But just being honest. But yeah, I mean, some of our most trusted companies have been hacked, and it's a pretty serious issue. The state of the market is that 20 to 35% is being spent on headhunters or recruitment fees. And that 20% is usually for our entry cyber technicians, and that 35% is for your more senior guys. That's pretty significant, and that's only rising within the next 4 to 5 years. So to sum up the problems with the industry and how they go out and find talent, and let me mention that it's pretty hard to find the right talent and let alone validate those skills that particular company's looking for. There's no end in sight for the data breaches. Finding what we call or what's considered cyber hybrid talent is pretty difficult, and those fees are only going to go up. And then the gap between the amount of jobs that are available and the talent that's available to fill those jobs, based on evolving threat, is only going to increase. So when I was with the state of Maryland, we worked with NIST. NICE 2.0 framework. This is a framework that was developed for industry that states, here are the knowledge, skills, and abilities for all of the cyber roles within industry. Pretty cumbersome, nobody's using this, but this is the standards that we can use to find talent. Military members have a hard time transitioning all of the military. We use military jargon, lingo. No one's translated all of the skills that are needed, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. We're the only one who's going to be focused on cybersecurity and translating those skills to the NICE 2.0 framework that we talked about. So, in a nutshell, what we're doing, we're the only product or company that's focused on cyber warriors. We automate the skills. We talked about the validation of the skills. And then we have the real-time validation of skills. And here's one interesting fact. No employer except the military has an expiration date. We all know when we're getting out. So that's pretty significant for an employer looking to engage with a military member before they get out. So this allows us to create a pipeline for perpetuity and then engage with those military members that are getting out, prepare them for transition, and to find the talent. So we're looking for a technical co-founder, somebody with database, back-end skills, and then front-end. I have some pretty large global companies. I guess this is a good problem to have. Essentially, we said, how much does this tool cost, and how can we get on board? Well, I need a co-founder in order to make that happen. That's it. Am I good?
Yeah.
Time? All right. Questions?
Hi, as a total loser in high school who really enjoyed this kind of thing. So I know that like cyber warfare is a real issue, and I'm just wondering, are you particularly concerned with only funneling military vets into who are in the cyber part of the military into companies, or is this for everyone? And the second question is, whenever a company wants to hire a cybersecurity expert, they'll probably do things like pen testing or things like that, where they're constantly trying to figure out how good you are at meeting the system. Do you offer any solutions that show the individual qualifications of each company?
Yes. So when I first started this, it was very hyper niched. I said I'm only going to do military members because we have the clearances. It makes them extremely lucrative. And then, you know, with the feedback, and you know, Jason pointed that out, you get mentor whiplash. But I have some pretty good investors and advisors that say, hey, you know what, you might want to open this thing up. So yes, so essentially how we're going to set it up, there'll be a federal side which we're dealing with all of the cleared professionals, and then there'll be I guess you could call it a commercial side where we'll deal with everybody else. As far as validating their knowledge, skills, and abilities, there's two platforms that we have available right now. One is a skills-based assessment, and then the other one is the knowledge-based assessment. And we do that on the fly, and that's based on an evolving threat. So if we go back to, if you remember, I talked about the, is this thing, do I go back or? But anyways, talked about this NICE 2.0 framework, which lists all of the knowledge, skills, and abilities. The platform will be able to take a threat and all of your requirements that are needed for that threat, and then we can validate those skills for the talent coming in the pipeline. Questions?
One more question.
So what is the technology piece that you're trying to build? Is this just like a database where people who have contracted you can go and search? Or are you providing more of a matching service?
Well, both. So we'll be able to translate all of the skills from that NICE 2.0 framework and from the military side, and then that covers all of aspects. So you can use that matching algorithm to find out. So let me walk you through the what it would look like. Take, for example, a recruiter or hiring manager or even CISO is looking for a particular candidate. They'll state what skills that they're looking for. We'll go back into the engine and say, well, this candidate is 80% qualified, 92% qualified. We do a comprehensive skills gap assessment. We say that they need this certification or this amount of training, and this back with the validation that we talked about.
Question?
Yeah.
Are you part of Techstars, or you just like your shirt?
So no, I didn't get to that because I sped through it. So yeah, this limited edition that you see right here is only for a program called Techstars Patriot Bootcamp. And essentially what Techstars did, and Jason talked about the giving back, is that there's this program that they do annually where you still have to apply to it. And luckily I've been a part for them since the inauguration in 2012. But so we apply to it, and they demystify entrepreneurship. They put us in the room with guys like Jason who give us guidance, and they help us pitch and then extend it out to the network. So this is for Techstars Patriot Bootcamp.
Any more question? One more question? Anybody? Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody. And usually we have raffles, but this time we haven't had time to actually collect business cards, so we're not going to do one. But one of the things I want to do cover, I'm actually talking to the mic here, is the stuff that Jason mentioned, which is the color dots, what they mean. So just whatever he said, you know, the red, what does it stand for, and all that stuff. I just want to ask a couple of questions for you guys. How many of you are looking for a co-founder or are looking to hire somebody? If you guys will stand up, please. Okay. How many of you are looking for a job? Or join a co-founder? Okay. Well, you guys can connect that way, because definitely I want you guys to make the connection you guys came here today to, and be able to share the event and come back again. And please help us thank our partners and sponsors. I'll leave this up, I'll put some music on, and you guys can network and have some drinks, and I'll stop the music at 9 o'clock, so you have about 24 minutes. Thanks, guys. Remember.
I like your presentation. He's gonna need a new local.
So I have to condense this.
Yeah, same. We were there for
so many problems.
Born and raised, I was born and raised.
So